We're continuing our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're on Canto 3, Chapter 25, and we're taking up at text 37. Thus, because he is completely absorbed in thought of me, the devotee does not desire even the highest benediction obtainable in the upper planetary systems, including Satyaloka. He does not desire the 8 material perfections obtained from mystic yoga, nor does he desire to be elevated to the kingdom of God. Yet even without desiring them, the devotee enjoys, even in this life, all the offered benedictions. The vibhuti, or opulences, offered by Maya are of many varieties. We have experience of different varieties of material enjoyment even on this planet. But if one is able to promote himself to higher planets like Chandraloka, the sun, or still higher, Maharloka, Janaloka, or Tapoloka, or even ultimately the highest planet, which is inhabited by Brahma and is called Satyaloka, there are immense possibilities for material enjoyment. For example, the duration of life on higher planets is far, far greater than on this planet. It is said that on the moon, the duration of life is such that our 6 months are equal to 1 day. We cannot even imagine the duration of life on the highest planet. It is stated in Bhagavad-gītā that Brahma's 12 hours are inconceivable even to our mathematicians. These are all descriptions of the external energy of the Lord, or Maya. Besides these, there are other opulences which the yogis can achieve by their mystic power. They are also material. A devotee does not aspire for all these material pleasures, although they are available to him simply by wishing. By the grace of the Lord, a devotee can achieve wonderful success simply by willing. But a real devotee does not like that. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught that one should not desire material opulence or material reputation, nor should one try to enjoy material beauty. One should simply aspire to be absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord, even if one does not get liberation, but has to continue the process of birth and death unlimitedly. Actually, however, to one who engages in Krishna consciousness, liberation is already guaranteed. Devotees enjoy all the benefits of the higher planets, and the Vaikuntha planets also. It is especially mentioned here, Bhagavatim Bhadram. In the Vaikuntha planets, everything is eternally peaceful, yet a pure devotee does not even aspire to be promoted there. But still he gets that advantage. He enjoys all the facilities of the material and spiritual worlds, even during the present lifespan. Nakari chinmat para shantarupe nang shanti no me nimisho ledihe tihi yesham maham priya atma sutascha sakha guru suridodhaivam ishtam. The Lord continued, "My dear mother, devotees who receive such transcendental opulences are never bereft of them. Neither weapons nor the change of time can destroy such opulences, because the devotees accept me as their friend, their relative, their son, preceptor, benefactor, and supreme deity. They cannot be deprived of their possessions at any time." Purport. It is stated in Bhagavad-gītā that one may elevate himself to the higher planetary systems, even up to Brahmaloka, by dint of pious activities. But when the effect of such pious activities are finished, one again comes back to this earth to begin a new life of activities. Thus, even though one is promoted to the higher planetary system for enjoyment and a long duration of life, still that is not a permanent settlement. But as far as the devotees are concerned, their assets, the achievement of devotional service, and the consequent opulence of Vaikuntha, even on this planet, are never destroyed. In this verse, Kapiladev addresses his mother as Shantarupa, indicating that the opulences of devotees are fixed because devotees are eternally fixed in the Vaikuntha atmosphere, which is called Shantarupa, because it is in the mode of pure goodness. undisturbed by the modes of passion and ignorance. Once one is fixed in the devotional service of the Lord, his position of transcendental service cannot be destroyed, and the pleasure and service simply increase unlimitedly. For the devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness in the Vaikuntha atmosphere, there is no influence of time. In the material world, the influence of time destroys everything, but in the Vaikuntha atmosphere, there is no influence of time or of the demigods, because there are no demigods in the Vaikuntha planets. Here our activities are controlled by different demigods. Even if we move our hand and leg, the action is controlled by the demigods. But in the Vaikuntha atmosphere, there is no influence of the demigods or of time. Therefore, there is no question of destruction. When the time element is present, there is the certainty of destruction. But when there is no time element, past, present, or future, then everything is eternal. Therefore, this verse uses the words na nangshanti, indicating that the transcendental opulences will never be destroyed. The reason for freedom from destruction is also described. The devotees accept the Supreme Lord as the most dear personality and reciprocate with him in different relationships. They accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the dearmost friend, the dearmost relative, the dearmost son, the dearmost preceptor, the dearmost well-wisher, or the dearmost deity. The Lord is eternal. Therefore, any relationship in which we accept him is also eternal. It is clearly confirmed herein that the relationships cannot be destroyed, and therefore the opulences of those relationships are never destroyed. Every living entity has the propensity to love someone. We can see that if someone has no object of love, he generally directs his love to a pet animal like a cat or dog. Thus, the eternal propensity for love in all living entities is always searching for a place to reside. Worth repeating. Thus, the eternal propensity for love in all living entities is always searching for a place to reside. You mark it, please. From this verse, we can learn that we can love the Supreme Personality of Godhead as our dearmost object, as a friend, as a son, as a preceptor, or as a well-wisher. And there will be no cheating and no end to such love. We shall eternally enjoy the relationship with the Supreme Lord in different aspects. A special feature of this verse is the acceptance of the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Preceptor. Bhagavad-gītā was spoken directly by the Supreme Lord, and Arjuna accepted Kṛṣṇa as Guru or spiritual master. Similarly, we should accept only Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Spiritual Master. Krishna, of course, means Krishna and his confidential devotees. Krishna is not alone. When we speak of Krishna, Krishna means Krishna in his name, in his form, in his qualities, in his abode, and in his associates. Krishna is never alone, for the devotees of Krishna are not impersonalists. For example, a king is always associated with his secretary, his commander, his servant, and so much paraphernalia. As soon as we accept Krishna and his associates as our preceptors, no ill effects can destroy our knowledge. In the material world, the knowledge which we acquire may change because of the influence of time, but nevertheless the conclusions received from Bhagavad-gītā, directly from the speeches of the Supreme Lord Krishna, can never change. There is no use interpreting Bhagavad-gītā. It is eternal. Krishna, the Supreme Lord, should be accepted as one's best friend. He will never cheat. He will always give his friendly advice and friendly protection to the devotee. If Krishna is accepted as a son, he will never die. We have a very loving son or child, but the father and mother, or those who are affectionate towards him, always hope, may my son not die. But Krishna actually never will die. Therefore, those who accept Krishna or the Supreme Lord as their son will never be bereft of their son. In many instances, devotees have accepted the deity as a son. In Bengal, there are many such instances, and even after the death of the devotee, the deity performs the Shraddha ceremony for the father. The relationship is never destroyed. People are accustomed to worship different forms of demigods, but in Bhagavad-gītā such a mentality is condemned. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to worship only the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different forms, such as Lakshmi Narayan, Sitaram, and Radha Krishna. Thus one will never be cheated. By worshipping the demigods, one may elevate himself to the higher planets, but during the dissolution of the material world, the deity and the abode of the deity will be destroyed. But one who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead is promoted to the Vaikuntha planets, where there is no influence of time, destruction, or annihilation. The conclusion is that the time influence cannot act upon devotees who have accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead as everything. Thus the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in a relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death. Unflinching devotional service, as described in these two verses, means engaging oneself in full Krishna consciousness, or devotional service, accepting the Supreme Lord as all in all. Since the Supreme Lord is all-inclusive, if anyone worships him with unflinching faith, he has automatically achieved all other opulences and performed all other duties. The Lord promises herein that he takes his devotee to the other side of birth and death. Lord Chaitanya therefore recommended that one who aspires to go beyond birth and death should have no material possessions. This means that one should not try to be happy in this world or to be promoted to the heavenly world. Nor should he try for material wealth, children, houses, or cattle. How liberation is imperceptibly achieved by a pure devotee, and what the symptoms are, have been explained. For the conditioned soul, there are two statuses of living. One status is in this present life, and the other is our preparation for the next life. If I am in the mode of goodness, then I may be preparing for promotion to the higher planets. If I am in the mode of passion, then I shall remain here in a society where activity is very prominent. And if I am in the mode of ignorance, I may be degraded to animal life or a lower grade of human life. But for a devotee, there's no concern for this life or the next life, because in any life he does not desire elevation and material prosperity or a high grade or low grade life. He prays to the Lord, "My dear Lord, it does not matter where I am born, but let me be born even as an ant in the house of the devotee, of a devotee." A pure devotee does not pray to the Lord for liberation from this material bondage. Actually, the pure devotee never thinks that he is fit for liberation. Considering his past life and his mischievous activities, he thinks that he is fit to be sent to the lowest region of hell. If in this life I am trying to become a devotee, this does not mean that in my many past lives I was 100% pious. That is not possible. A devotee, therefore, is always conscious of his real position. Only by his full surrender to the Lord, by the Lord's grace, are his sufferings made shorter. As stated in Bhagavad-gītā, surrender unto me, and I will give you protection from all kinds of sinful reaction. That is his mercy. But this does not mean that one who has surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord has committed no misdeeds in his past life. A devotee always prays, "For my misdeeds may I be born again and again, but my only prayer is that I may not forget your service." The devotee has that much mental strength, and he prays to the Lord. May I be born again and again, but let me be born in the home of your pure devotee, so that I may again get a chance to develop myself. A pure devotee is not anxious to elevate himself in his next birth. He has already given up that sort of hope. In any life in which one is born as a householder or even as an animal, one must have some children, some resources, or some possessions. But a devotee is not anxious to possess anything. He is satisfied with whatever is obtainable by God's grace. He is not at all attached to improving his social status or improving the status of education of his children. He is not neglectful, he is dutiful, but he does not spend too much time on the upliftment of temporary household or social life. He fully engages in the service of the Lord, and for other affairs, he simply spares as much time as absolutely necessary. Yatarham upayunjataha. Such a pure devotee does not care for what is going to happen in the next life or in this life. He does not care even for family, children, or society. He fully engages in the service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. It is stated in Bhagavad-gītā that without the knowledge of the devotee, the Lord arranges for his devotee to be immediately transferred to his transcendental abode just after leaving his body. After quitting his body, he does not go into the womb of another mother. The ordinary common living entity after death is transferred to the womb of another mother, according to his karma or activities, to take another type of body. But as far as the devotee is concerned, he is at once transferred to the spiritual world in the association of the Lord. That is the Lord's special mercy. How it is possible is explained in the following verses. Because he is all-powerful, the Lord can do anything and everything. He can excuse all sinful reactions. He can immediately transfer a person to Vaikuntha Loka. That is the inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is favorably disposed to the pure devotees. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself, for I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. It is indicated herein that the cycle of birth and death cannot be stopped unless one is a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, Harim vina naiva sritim taranti. One cannot surpass the cycle of birth and death unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same concept is confirmed herewith. One may take to the system of understanding the absolute truth by one's own imperfect sensory speculation, or one may try to realize the self by the mystic yoga process. But whatever one may do, unless he comes to the point of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no process can give him liberation. One may ask if this means that those who are undergoing so much penance and austerity by strictly following the rules and regulations are endeavoring in vain. The answer is given by Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. Yene ravindakshava muktamanina. Lord Brahma and other demigods prayed to the Lord when Kṛṣṇa was in the womb of Devaki. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, there are persons who are puffed up with the thought that they have become liberated or one with God, or have become God. But in spite of thinking in such a puffed up way, their intelligence is not laudable. They are less intelligent. It is stated that their intelligence, whether high or low, is not even purified. In purified intelligence, a living entity cannot think otherwise than to surrender. Bhagavad-gītā therefore confirms that purified intelligence arises in the person of a very wise man. bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. After many, many births, one who is actually advanced in intelligence surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Without the surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says, those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process, are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not yet surrendered unto you. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving at the brink of spiritual realization, in Brahman realization, they think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman, but actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Para-Brahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman. Without realization that he is Brahman, spirit soul, an eternal servitor of the Lord, if one simply thinks that he is Brahman, his realization is only theoretical. He has to realize and at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status. Otherwise he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the Personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not sufficient, and therefore these persons fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he does not engage in the activity of transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from the cycle of birth and death. It is stated here by Lord Kapila, without my mercy, nanyatra mad bhagavataha. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating that he is full of all opulences and is therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Pradhana, because he is the Supreme. He is equal to everyone, but to one who surrenders to him, he is especially favorable. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy and no one is his friend. But to one who surrenders unto him, he is especially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go on in many, many lives and may many times attempt other processes for liberation. It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows. Out of fear of me, the sun shines out of fear of me, and the Lord of the clouds, Indra, sends forth showers out of fear of me. Fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, says in Bhagavad-gītā that the natural laws being enacted are correct in all activities because of his superintendence. No one should think that nature is working automatically without superintendence. The Vedic literature says that the clouds are controlled by the demigod Indra. Heat is distributed by the sun god. The soothing moonlight is distributed by Chandra. And the air is blowing under the arrangement of the demigod Vayu. But above all these demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the chief living entity. Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanash, Chaitananam. The demigods are also ordinary living entities, but due to their faithfulness, their devotional service attitude, they have been promoted to such posts. These different demigods or directors, such as Chandra, Varuna, and Vayu, are called Adhikari Devata. The demigods are departmental heads. The government of the Supreme Lord consists not only of one planet or two or three, There are millions of planets and millions of universes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a huge government, and he requires assistance. The demigods are considered as bodily limbs. These are the descriptions of Vedic literature. Under these circumstances, the sun god, the moon god, the fire god, and the air god are working under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad-gītā, Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam. The natural laws are being conducted under his superintendence. Because he is in the background, everything is being performed punctually and regularly. One who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely protected from all other influences. He no longer serves or is obliged to anyone else. Of course, he is not disobedient to anyone, but his full power of thought is absorbed in the service of the Lord. But his full power of thought is absorbed in the service of the Lord. The statements by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila, that under his direction the air is blowing, the fire is burning, and the sun is giving heat are not sentimental. The impersonalists may say that the Bhagavatam devotees create and imagine someone as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and assign qualifications to him, but actually it is neither imagination nor an imposition of artificial power in the name of Godhead. In the Vedas it is said, Bhishashmad vata pavate bishodheti suryaha. By fear of the Supreme Lord, the wind god and the sun god are acting. Vishasmad agnish chandrascha mrityurdavati panchamaha. Agni, Indra, and Mrityu are also acting under his direction. These are the statements of the Vedas. And now we'll just take a couple of quick questions or reflections, starting now. Samipras.
In purport 37, I really appreciated how Srila Prabhupada restates the fourth verse of the Shikshastakam. He says, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught that one should not desire material opulence or material reputation, nor should one try to enjoy material beauty. Natanang najanang nasundarim. In other words, one should simply aspire to be absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord, even if one does not get liberation, but has to continue the process of birth and death unlimitedly. Mama janmani janmani ishvare. I just thought that was really cogent and fresh, and it occurred to me as I was reading it that that's just the fourth verse of the Shikshastakam, which I apparently know, but Prabhupada put it in such a he just put it in prose, and it really works. And I was appreciating the quality of writing, and also how Prabhupada does that so often. He just pulls from so many things and gives it to us represented. So that was a really good example of that.
Yeah, nice point. I'm an advocate of deconstructing those items that we say by rote every day, and being more aware of what we're actually saying can be really helpful. And then there can be a pattern in which, unless you say it only that way, it's not bona fide any other way. But you get the ideas from Prabhupada's renderings of these various verses in which he makes them into prose, that the main thing is the ideas, not that you're able to say it as faster than anybody else in the temple room. Prabhu?
Hearing these purports in the context of today's hearing about Prabhupada and connecting with him so personally is just so, it's not just mind-blowing, it's soul-blowing and so, for me, impactful. It's just everything is here in this couple of purports. I thought, again, if they were not there, if we just read the verses, even if Sanskrit or something, we would never get the mood. And again, coming back to that point of Prabhupada didn't give everything. The mood is everything. That's the highest, the levels of devotion. It's not the technique, it's the mood. And Prabhupada gave it in such an accessible and simple way. It's just unbelievable how he can put it so deeply, and then you understand it. This is what I should feel, and I should aspire to feel, and I should be ready to serve for as many lifetimes as needed. But if Krishna wants, he can take away everything in a second and take me. It's up to him. But I just pray that I become an insect in a devotee's home. That's it.
Nice. 1, 2, and we're done. Yes.
I was reflecting on the last verse which we read. God is getting actions through his fear. So at some point of time, he did the whole 600 plus verses to Arjuna and then say, what do you want to do? Gives the full opportunity of a free will. But when it comes to demigods or departmental heads, he is a taskmaster, appears to be, in which the wind has to blow in fear of him. So I was just trying to reconcile that to a jiva, Krishna gives the full free will to choose. But then on a departmental heads, it becomes, why do they fear of Krishna? Say one day sun doesn't comes up. It is a seva, it's fine, but then why do they fear on and do the activities because of the fear of sun? At one point Krishna is saying Ma Suchya, and all this Chandra and Surya are very loyal to, they are the eyes of the Lord. So why do they have to fear for the Lord? I'm just thinking around there.
Thank you. It's a rhetorical question?
Yeah, I'm just focusing.
Okay.
At some point, Krishna gives free will to do actions and choose.
No, I got the
Yeah.
point. I'm just asking if you wanted an answer or not. Okay, Prabhupada, brief for the close because we're over time.
In 37 purport, that word unlimitedly struck me. That we should, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that a devotee should be prepared to remain in the cycle of repeated birth and death unlimitedly. And I was just like, shoot. I wouldn't mind taking a few more births as long as I'm with devotees and, have my japa and, have service. But unlimitedly, that's a long time. And then in the next verse, purport, Prabhupada used the same word, unlimitedly, in text 38, but he says, once one is fixed in the devotional service of the Lord, his position of transcendental service cannot be destroyed, and the pleasure and service simply increase unlimitedly. So I was like, okay, that's maybe all right then. If we have to stay in the material world for an unlimited time, but if the service and the pleasure is also going to increase unlimitedly, then
Yeah,
so
at
be
that
it.
point, one's not really in the material world.
Yeah.
There's not a sense of what about tomorrow or something. One's fully fixed in the bliss of serving Krishna in the present.
Yeah, that's the Vaikuntha atmosphere.
Yeah.
So there's a little reassurance there.
Yeah, nice. Okay, just cap it off. We got to stop. I'm assuming it's a rejoinder to the
I'm just
fear factor.
It's just, I'm remembering Gopal Krishna Maharaj and everything with the purports and Prabhupada's appearance day. There's that video which we watched when Gopal Krishna Maharaj left, and you particularly appreciated, where Gopal Krishna Maharaj with a bit of a wry smile says, Prabhupada's always right, we should know that.
He's always right, we should know that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just appreciating the truth of Srila Prabhupada coming through his purports.
Clear as a bell. It's just drinking pure nectar. It lends new meaning to the colloquial phrase, it's too good. So it's been a emotionally stimulating day, also edifying to our devotional hearts, and we also, this is a time during the Kartik Vrat where Prabhupada's disappearance day marks a real shift in the energy. So what other festivals are there? Unless you want to eat cow dung for the last 5 days, which everyone's welcome to do. There's Gopashtami. So anyway, dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Panchatattva, Teen Thakur, if you so desire, please keep us in the association of devotees who want to hear unlimitedly, want to serve unlimitedly, and please engage us fully in expanding the Sankirtan movement. We'll take full advantage of any resources you'd like to send our way. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Our thanks to the Govardhana a cappella choir. Vanchakalpaduruscha kripasindhavevacha patitanam bhavanivyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah nantakoti vaishnaviniki jai. We'll start with we'll rejoin our regular, we'll continue our regular schedule tomorrow. That's, if I can remember correctly how that works. We meet at 10:30 a.m. We'll start up again tomorrow, and then we'll continue. But we better be careful because we're walking on thin ice here. It's getting near the end of the book. That's freaky. The big decisions will have to be made. It's a big topic. You don't want to bring it up right now. Okay.